Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Okay, so today I'm going to do an introductory guitar lesson. And the introduction is to understand the fretboard. Okay, I just played all the natural notes on the fretboard. What are natural notes? So one of the things I think is great to do is get a notebook, right? And so what I would call the natural notes is there are 7 notes, okay, that appear all over the neck, and they are, you can think of them as being like stationary or static at first. So what you're doing is you're drawing a map across the board, and the notes are going to kind of be there stationary until you want to move them. And when you move them, there's a sort of a vehicle or a way to activate, okay, and make it dynamic, okay? And their general concepts is really just, there's 2 things you need to know about the relationships between notes in terms of their relationships, their distances. There's only 2 things you need to know, okay? They're a certain distance apart. And in order to activate them, you either sharpen it or you flatten it. And those are just terms. What it means is to increase by a certain distance or decrease by a certain distance. So what that looks like is this. You have, let's say we have 8 notes, right? So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And the notes I'm going to use are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, so the 8th note repeats. It's just another C. So there's really 7. And these are all the notes. And there's a bunch of different ways to look at it in terms of relationships between each note. So you could say, you could look at each note and think in terms of each note has a relationship to every other note, and it has a special meaning, it has a certain function as a result when you put them together. So if you just had one note, there would be no need to measure the distance if there was just one note. But the reality is every note contains a series of other of harmonics, of other sounds, of other frequencies, but the human ear can only really hear one. When you pluck that one note, you're just hearing one sound, okay? But the reality is buried within those sounds, that one sound, there are other frequencies, okay? So here we go. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to identify the distances. So, in other words, C to D has a certain distance. D to E has a certain distance. E to F has a certain distance. But the distances between these notes, there's only 2 distances really. So, for instance, C to D, right? C to D equals a whole step. And what a whole step is 2 frets. So that's 2 frets. right? So a whole step equals 2 frets. Now, if I go B to C, that is considered a half step. And that is 1 fret distance. Okay, so on the guitar, what you have is C, right? And if you want a close-up of that, you can get it there. So here's C, right? It's up on the 3rd fret, 5th string. There's C, and here's D, 5th fret, 5th string, right? So that's a whole step. So you see 2 frets, right? Obviously. And then B to C is a half step. So here's B on the 2nd fret, 5th string, and then there's your C again on the 3rd fret, 5th string. So that's the whole fretboard. That's everything you need to know. It's kind of like computers, how computers, everything's made up of zeros and ones. All the audio, all the images, it's all zeros and ones. And on the fretboard with music, the relationships of the notes can all be broken down into half steps and whole steps, right? So whole step, 2 frets, half step, 1 fret. Now, if you want to organize it, the way it's going to look is you can have it like this. You can have C to D, you can have D to E, you can have F to G, G to A to B. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So you have 5 whole steps, okay? So each one of the distances here, you can put a W. W equals whole step, right? That's the distance. And the distances are going to create a dynamic or harmonic relationship, ultimately, which you'll recognize as a scale, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's ultimately what you're going to get out of that, out of the distances, is there's a harmonic series or a harmonic organization to the sound, to the tones. Okay, so in this scenario, you have 5 notes that have whole steps, right? You have 5 distances that are whole steps. And there are only 2 that are half steps. And the 2 are, we can do it here, B to C equals a half step, right? And E to F equals a half step. Okay, so that's the whole fretboard. That's, you can basically do this very easily once you see it. And what I recommend is that you get a notebook like this and a couple of box of pens, and try to do this. Try to say, we're going to go like this. We're going to go E. These are the open notes, the open strings on the guitar. Okay, so you have E, A, D, G, B, and E. Okay? And you could just do this freestyle. It doesn't have to be anything too accurate. Or if you want to get a ruler, you can make very straight lines. But I think this is just good to start writing things down, because your mind and your memory usually remembers things when you write them down. It's kind of like you're carving into your memory. And the image of the fretboard, when you're staring at the guitar, right? You're looking at the guitar. Again, you can see the 12 frets, and that's really all we're going to do. Is we're going to focus on these 12 frets here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's your 12th fret. And then we're going to go 13, 14, 15, 16. And I don't know if I'm going to do the length of the string, but it's 25.5 inches in length. And that has significance. Why? Because when you get to the 12th fret, what the 12th fret is it's the halfway mark of the string. So 25.5, the halfway mark is going to be 12.75. Okay, and this will come up again, and it's very interesting. I think that's why I bring it up, is that you can start to do real simple math, like 25.5 divided in half, divided by 2, is 12.75, and that gives you the location of this fret. Okay, that's where it is. And what you see is through applying whole numbers, you can get into the realm of where the notes fall, where the notes are, where the harmonics are sort of hidden. Actually, all the notes are hidden, right? You can't see the notes. And through writing it out on a fretboard, in a notebook, you start to develop a visual of where the notes are, and you can start to see patterns. And after you practice it for a while, what you see is they really start to stand out. And you don't really have to think about them anymore, because you just know where they are. And sometimes you hit things by accident, and it works out anyway. And sometimes you hit bad notes, and it doesn't work out. I'm going to take this up here. So here's the game. Game is this. If you use this particular arrangement, starting with C, it's a C major scale. It happens to be a C major scale. So I write C major. And this particular scale is considered natural notes, and it will, by going through this, you can see the relationship of the whole steps and the half steps in this particular scale. So what we know is you can always check this. I think you could see it. This would be a great thing to copy and to practice. Okay, so I'm going to give you the first few notes on the top, towards the headstock. Okay, towards the first 3 frets. I'm going to start you there, and then with this formula, based on this scale, the pattern of this scale will give you a formula, and you can find all the notes. And that's the lesson plan, is to find the rest of the notes on the board. You can write out one of these boards and then photocopy it and just practice, and it really does start to jump. The notes start to jump out. You start to see them on the fretboard, and so I recommend it. And this is how it's done. Okay, so you have E, A, D, G, B, E. These are the open strings, and this is the top. This is like if you're looking down if you're looking down at your guitar, right, this is the E, this is the top, this E string, and this is the bottom string, right? This is the E on the bottom. Okay. So, what do we know about E? Well, if we look over here, we see E to F is a half step. What do we know about half steps? Half steps are 1 fret distance, okay? And distance, distance between, I'll just write distance equals, the whole steps and half step distances are called intervals. Intervals. So that's all that is. It's just those two things, half step or whole step. So what is E? Now, let's just say you're off the fretboard, you're trying to get on the board, okay, and you want to map out the board. So what does E tell you? Well, we know E to F is a half step, and a half step is 1 fret. So this is where your F is, right? And so I write F. Can you see that? Okay. And then F, what do we know about F? F to G is a whole step. So 2 frets, right? That's 2 frets, 1, 2. So you have G. Okay? Now, A to B is a whole step. So you need to go 1, 2 frets. So there is B, right? And then what do we know about B? B to C is a half step. Half step is 1 fret. That's 1 fret distance right there. So this is C. Good. D to E, whole step. E to F is a half step, right? 1 fret distance. G to A is a whole step. And if you want, you can go A to B is going to be a whole step. So 1, 2. There's your B, right? And go to the B string down here. This is the open B string. That B string is a half step to the C, right? And so that's a half step. That's 1 fret distance. C. Then C to D is a whole step. Okay? And again, E is the same thing on the bottom. It's a half step from E to F and a whole step from F to G. Okay. So that's how I start it. Okay? And you can kind of see it. I could do this lesson again sometime and make everything a little neater. But you get the idea, and I think it's a really good practice. You get a cheap notebook, and you're on your way. So now I'm just going to go across the top here. All right? I'm going to go, I think I'm going to use the A string. Okay, so A, B, C. So now I'm at C. What's C to D is a whole step. Right? There's D. D to E is a whole step. E to F is a half step. F to G is a whole step. G to A, there's a whole step, right? 2 frets. A to B is a whole step. And B to C. And I'm going to stop there. So the game is to let you to do this exercise and try and work it out. So here's the A string. So it's C, right? B, A, G, F, E, D, right? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the thing, is the distances, really. The half steps and the whole steps. It's very simple, and you can map the whole fretboard that way. And then once you map the fretboard, you can start working on sections, and there are 3 patterns that repeat all over the place, and that'll probably be the next lesson. So, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy, have a wonderful evening, and just keep playing. Good night. Oh, where's that thing? Where's that?